Welcome to Ascension of the Chessmen, diving into the esoteric, occult, spiritual, and conspiratorial aspects of life, focused on solutions to the problems we face in our everyday lives. Let us ascend above all differences. Let us be the light in darkness, a breath of fresh air to those who can hardly breathe, and together awaken into greatness. This is Ascension of the Chessmen with your host, Andre Mitty.
Welcome to the Ascension of the Chessmen podcast. I'm your host, Andre Mitty. Today's guest is a father, a best-selling author, motivational speaker, Zen athlete coach, and host of the Mastermind Body Spirit podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, hobbits and fairies, give a warm welcome to Matt Belair.
Hey, man, thanks so much for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming on, brother. Happy to have you. I guess if you could just tell the listeners a little about yourself and who you are for those who aren't familiar.
Yeah, sure. Well, the easiest way I like to explain it is I grew up really interested in martial arts. And so right away, my interest was in mind, body, spirit, because I was watching all of these, masters on the television break bricks and do all these different things. And I learned right away that, it was like some sort of mindset, you know what I mean? They were harnessing the power, whatever that was, like Power Rangers or something like that.
Right.
So I was really curious about that, but I was also studying, not studying, but trying meditation. As a kid, I didn't know what I was doing. And my dad was a martial artist. And so I was, an athlete as well. And so when I got into my teenage years, I began experimenting with what I was learning in martial arts about mindset and focus to skateboarding, and it really accelerated my skateboarding. And also around 14 or 15, I started to read books on consciousness and meditation and enlightenment. I was really curious about the limits to human potential, and also what is enlightenment? Could I reach enlightenment? Was Jesus and Buddha real? Were they real people? And can I attain that level of consciousness? How can I influence my reality? And so, I'm reading, books, and I'm experimenting in my teenage years. And after high school, that's kind of when I realized I was a little bit different. I kind of thought like everybody else, but around high school, everyone was going to university and they weren't really thinking about what they wanted to do with their lives. They weren't thinking about travel. They weren't thinking about, big questions. They just were like, yeah, we're all going to go to school, and they didn't know what they're going to go for. And I was like, well, I'm going to go traveling. So I ended up in Whistler for 8 years, where I became a professional snowboard coach, and I started to teach these high-level snowboarders what I had learned through martial arts. But I was also studying mindset and peak performance and consciousness and things like that. And so I started to teach that to athletes, which was interesting because even still now, the book that I wrote, Zen Athlete, it's ahead of the times right now, but it's way behind the times. Like, this stuff has been around forever. Visualization, mindset, meditation, all these different things, like the zone, the flow is kind of, getting in the flow, getting in the zone is becoming a little bit more popular, but still people don't really understand it. And it's not that complicated. It's kind of like going to the gym, right? And if you want to be really strong, you can do 5 sets of 5 squats. You can do 5 sets of 5 deadlifts. And if you do that over time, or other protocols, you're going to get crazy strong. And so we're not doing that for the mental game. We're not applying that kind of training. And so, when I was done with the snowboarding, I was kind of like, okay, it's time for the next thing. I wanted to travel the world, and I always want to immerse myself in the best. If they can actually do it, I want to be there, and I want to do the training. I want to experiment with it. I want to know for myself if it works or it doesn't. And so I ended up training in Thailand, mixed martial arts. I ended up going to Nepal, where I meditated with monks and trekked Mount Everest. And then I also went to China to train with 34th generation Shaolin masters. And of all my travels, they were the most extraordinary. They were the ones that could do the physical feats that were impossible. So one of the masters could break stone with 2 fingers. He could break bigger pieces over his head, over every bit of his body. And watching how they trained and what they did and how they thought was very fascinating. And it really was this combination of the, etheric world, this spiritual world, this world of chi or energy or prana or whatever you want to say, with the physical world. And so that's where I feel like some of the new agey or spiritual community kind of lacks out, where I love that stuff. I love the limits of consciousness and meditation and all kinds of weirdness and get into, but also what he did to be able to achieve this is slam his fingers against a tree, for years, just poking a tree. There were dent holes in the tree from smashing your fingers. And I had to do that as part of my training, poking the
Wow.
tree. It hurt so much, and punching a hard tree. It was just ridiculous. But that's a part of their training over years. And so that kind of commitment over years allowed him to do something that 90% of the planet would think is impossible, you know? And so, even after that, I started the podcast with the intention to just have conversations like you're doing here. And so I was grateful to have the invitation, and I loved the title and what you're putting out there, because, we want to put positive conversations and ideas and topics into the world, right? We need to create something. We need to do something. And so that's been, I think, 7 years now. And I got to #1 in like 25 countries, and it's been great. But, it's not like a business.
Right.
People are like, wow, your YouTube successful. It's like, I don't know about that. Like, I got deleted everywhere. And, even though it's gotten 5 million downloads, which I'm proud of, it's not really a business per se. It's about like, how do I take these great teachers and share their stories, share their lessons, is so wherever you are on the planet, you can learn. And
Right.
so after those travels, I ended up training with 3 different indigenous elders for quite some time, and learned a great deal, and went down to Guatemala for a Mayan fire ceremony, and did all kinds of things. And really, the intention was always the exploration of who I was, what's going on in this planet, what's the truth, and how can I help? How can we create a world that makes sense? Because at 15, and younger, we had 2 channels on my television, and constantly they show me commercials of people dying to, starving to death, really skinny, for World Vision or whatever. And I was like, how is this possible? Like, rice is so cheap. They just need rice and water. That's an abundance on the planet. What is happening? And so that kind of led me down all the rabbit holes to discover, what's truly happening here. Why is this being orchestrated and done deliberately? How come they can't be helped? And so, the underlying intention is, how can we build a world that makes sense? That's one of peace and beauty. And I think your last podcast was on morality and truth. We have, I kind of give the example, if there are aliens, and they're looking down and they're seeing what we're doing from outside, and they would think like, I don't want to go down there. And if there's the Olympic Games for ETs, we wouldn't be invited. But what if we all cooperated, and there was an interstellar games or something, we would all, as one planet, work together and achieve amazing things. And one of my Native American teachers said the next upgrade for humanity is peace. And I truly believe that. So that is the medium-sized version of an intro for you.
That was beautiful, brother. I yeah, I can't even begin to like pick apart all your life experiences there. Like I I don't know if I've talked to or met a more interesting guy than yourself as far as like being well traveled and just life experience, you know. You had said I think in a previous podcast you had a near death experience while climbing Mount Everest. Would you care sharing any about that or
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Some of my friends will be like, you're legit the most interesting man in the world, and I say I appreciate that. But if you travel, you meet a
right,
lot of interesting people, and the only thing that I did what differently than my friends and most people was I figured out what I really wanted to do and I focused on that. What people usually do is they focus on the money to get to the next thing, right? And I did
hmm
it in verse. So when I wanted to snowboard, I was like, I really want to snowboard all day, every day for myself, and was able to architect that over about a 2 or 3 year term. Then I was, training high level snowboarders. So I was getting paid to snowboard exactly what I'd snowboard anyway. So it took
right,
me a little bit to build up, right? So that's all I've done. And I think if people kind of, they're putting the cart before the horse. If I had to make all the money to like buy the lift tickets and do all those different things, I would have been 35 and never get there.
right,
So, people kind of do that, they're going to lead their life very differently. So, um, I wanted to explore enlightenment, and I figured, well, who would have those answers? And my thought at the time was Tibetan monks. Tibetan
hmm
monks must be the closest teachers to enlightenment on the planet. So I'm going to go check that out. I wanted to go to Tibet, but it's still occupied by China to this day. So you can only really go there in guided tours, which is crazy. But in Nepal, they have Tibetan monasteries. So I volunteered and taught English to I think they're kindergarten, grade 1,
hmm
and that was really wonderful. And then to have conversations with older monks in the afternoon. And when I landed, they're like, "Oh, are you going to trek, you're gonna do trekking and do Mount Everest. And I didn't even clue in Mount Everest was in Nepal. And
Right.
so I was like,
You're like,
oh
oh,
shoot, I guess so. Like,
right.
yeah, immediately. Literally took me like 5 seconds. I was like, oh, you're gonna trek, Mount Everest, and I didn't even know it was there, and I was like, shit, like I gotta trek Mount Everest now.
No other choice not to at this
Right?
point.
Yeah. But when am I ever gonna be here? Right? I was like,
Right, right.
damn, I guess so. I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
okay, it's gonna be great. So, so what I did is, I like photography, and I was really into photography at the time. And there's a place called Gokuri, which is supposed to give you a better view of the Himalayas, right? And
Mhm.
then there's Everest. So I thought to myself, well, I want the good view, but I also want Everest because of the name, right? You trekked Everest is a cool thing. Plus, it's like legendary. So I wanted to do it.
Mhm.
And so I was able to do 2 peaks. And so as I was like 4 days up just to get to the first peak, and it was sunny all day in the
Jeez.
morning. And it was 4 or 5 days. And then when we got there, it was really late, and he's like, hey, do you want to go this last hour, or do you want to wait to the morning to see the view? So me and another guy were like, all right, we'll wait till tomorrow because it's been nice. I get up in the morning, and it's all foggy. I can't see anything. So I didn't even think that was a possibility. And I was so pissed, 5 days up, I'm never going to go back most likely. And the view was ruined, right? The sunset
Right.
in the Himalayas. I got to see it at night, which was very spectacular in itself. And the stars are unbelievable. It's like, I actually asked the question when we were looking at it. I was like, I know this is a stupid question, but I was like, because we are so high in elevation, are the stars closer? Because they were so bright and so close. And there was like 80% more stars than I've ever seen. And I've been to a lot of wilderness places. It was truly extraordinary.
Amazing.
And so, yeah, so in the morning I couldn't see it, so I was pissed. I was so mad. And I learned some things like anger. It's just like the whole way down, I had to walk 1 hour down, right? And then we
Mhm.
started to do the trek to Everest the next day. So first day back up, 1 day down, then we do 1 day back up, and it snows. Then the second day we get a massive snowstorm, and it ends up being actually a record-breaking snowstorm. I didn't know at the time.
Wow.
And basically what the guide said is, if you don't get to your next place, you're not going to see Everest. And I was like, I just missed that scenic spot, so there's no way that I am missing this one. And
Right.
because I had a flight out to go to Thailand to train MMA. So we trek out, and it's just knee and waist deep snow. And if nobody's ever gone through that, you have no idea how
Rough.
exhausting it is. So we're stuck in a valley, knee and waist deep, and it's kind of funny at first. And we have to retreat down to this little cabin there. It would probably take like an hour to get across this valley. We'd been like 2.5, and we hadn't gone anywhere. So we retreated down. And then he's like, well, we got to go. We got to get to this next place, or you're not going to see it, because you got to get to this next place and then Everest. So we say, okay. So we start walking, and we're going through this valley, and now the sun starts to go down, and it starts to get cold. And I didn't really prepare like for going through a snowstorm. Usually it doesn't snow like that. It's kind of trekked out and it's not so bad. But I was also sweating so much because
Mhm.
of how much energy I'd used to get through the snow. So my body started to get really cold. And
Hypothermia.
I'd gone through
Jeez.
so much energy, right? People get elevation sickness, and is that what it is? Altitude
Right.
sickness, just on hiking, then alone going through knee and waist deep snow for 2-3 hours.
Rough.
So
Holy
I'm
cow.
going through all the psychology stuff in my head, right? Like, you have infinite energy, you're full of energy, all this kind of stuff, everything I can do to kind of keep going. And we get to this pitch, and it's the first people we see. No one in our place went up, and only one place from the next spot was coming down, right? Because they go in sections. And
Mhm.
so they said, don't go up there. We're the only ones who's left. And it's like, it's cold, and it's snowy, and it's hard.
Jeez.
And they look at me and they say, well, if you want to see the peak, you got to go. And I was like, I got to go.
Right. No other
So I'm
choice.
starting to get up this really steep incline now, because sometimes go flat, then you got to go, steep inclines, and it's a massive one.
Mhm.
And as I'm going up this bigger one, now I'm starting to lean onto rocks, because I'm starting to get tired, and my body's actually starting to shut down. And so
Right.
I start to take these little micro naps as my guides are going up. And all of a sudden, I lean, and I hear my voice say, it's okay, Matt, go to sleep. You'll be fine. Now, normally you have your internal dialogue, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't that. It was something else. It was like
Wow.
me outside of myself. And that has
Holy shit.
never happened before, and it's never happened since. And
Wow.
I was like, oh no, like, this is not good. Like, this is not a good thing.
Holy shit.
So immediately when that happens, I kind of snap out of it and I was like, okay, you're in trouble. And so it's about an hour up this incline, another
Hmm.
hour through snow, and then another like probably 45 minutes through kind of slushy snow. And like there was this river that we had to kind of cross of snow and wetness. And I just walked through it. They were trying to find spots where they could get through, and
Right.
I was
Not
just
get all
numb.
wet.
And I saw the cabin, and I could have just like fallen asleep at any point, at any point I
Hmm.
could have just fallen asleep and been totally fine. But like I got as far as I could, but body just on autopilot got me inside, and took off my clothes and put on the biggest, warmest stuff I could, everything that was dry. I got by a fire, and all night I couldn't eat. They gave me a little bit of soup. I had trouble eating, and I couldn't get warm. And so they made me another fire, and I still couldn't get warm, and was able to sleep. And so the next day I was like, oh, okay, I think I'm okay. And I go to stand up, and my body is like, there's no energy in it. So I basically just decide I'm going to get to Everest, and then I'm getting helicoptered out. So I make the trek, I get there, I sit in it for a while, and I'm woozy, I'm there with my wits, but like my body it's like a half and half. It's like half in the door, half out the door.
Wow.
But I was like, there's no way I was missing. I was so close, I
Right.
couldn't not do it. So so I was able to get there and then get helicoptered out. And what I find out was it was a record-breaking snowstorm, that I probably had elevation sickness, but he said you weren't getting enough oxygen to the blood, because it's like doing the most intense cardio exercise with mass, like sweating, and then the sweat turns cold when it gets colder, right?
Right.
So
Right.
he's like, you were in a really dangerous spot, and had you fallen
Oh
asleep, you
yeah.
would have been probably dead within a minute or two, or something. I was like, holy crap. And so luckily I recovered pretty quick, but it definitely made for a good story.
Right. Right. So he's like seeing the white light, or it was just like a voice and a void type
Yeah,
of thing.
I didn't see a white light. It was just a weird voice outside of me. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like it was my
Interesting.
inner dialogue that was outside. It was
Wow.
like I was talking. It's like if you had a duplicate and I just said that. I couldn't see
Right.
myself, but I was speaking to myself from outside of myself, not the inner dialogue.
Holy cow.
Like from the other side, being like
Right.
like a
Right.
higher self scenario or something. Like,
That's
hey,
insane.
Matt, it's okay. Like you're gonna be fine. Go to sleep. It's okay.
Wow.
So I think that was an opportunity for me to exit if I wanted.
Wow. That's powerful. My my my
Something.
my dad he broke his neck diving in the a lake. It was too shallow, and he was 15 at the time, and he said he saw a white light, and that was his near death experience. And it was, I guess, God kind of told him, or his higher self was like, you're not ready to go yet, and kind of sent him back. And yeah, so I'm just fascinated by near death experiences, so I had to touch on that, brother. But
Yeah. No, it's
yeah.
very fascinating. Yeah, I've had a bunch of guests on that explore different scenarios. Some of them sound a lot cooler than I got. I didn't get to go
Right.
to another dimension, sadly.
Right. Oh, I mean, I had to hear the Mount Everest story, so
Yeah, of
I'm glad
course.
we could touch on that. I guess so you do Zen athlete coaching. Can you kind of talk about what that is? And you say it's ahead of its time, but we should have been using this long ago. And just a synopsis of it, I guess, and how you talk people through it. And yeah, I'll just let you explain it from there.
Yeah, sure. Well, for me, I was always, and I still am interested in peak performance, right? What are the limits to human potential? What are the like codes or strategies or plans or things like that are going to allow me and others to reach their highest potential? And so, in studying peak performance and sports psychology and mindset and hypnosis and all these different things, Zen Athlete came out of like, I was teaching this to pro snowboarders, and I was just going to do the snowboarding version, but I was like, everybody should use this. And the thing with an extreme sports athlete, they're very special in the sense that we put ourselves at risk. So
Hmm.
if you are playing basketball and you miss a free throw, both your legs are not going to break simultaneously, right?
Right.
But in extreme sports, you are always threading this needle between your abilities and what you believe you can do with high consequences, right? So
Right.
that level of belief and focus and intent has to be there. And so that's why it's unique to other sports. And that's why this training is so important. And then when I break it down to like a children's level, right? Because what are the core fundamentals I was trying to teach? Um, were these? It was if a kid was going to shoot a basketball shot, the first thing I would teach him to do is clear his mind. Just take 3 deep breaths. An individual who can clear their mind at will and someone who can't, there's a fundamental difference in consciousness and quality of life. It's
100%.
massive. Just that simple thing, right? And kids aren't taught this. Second thing is to visualize the shot going in. Well, we'll then learn that we influence our reality through our intent, through our visualization, through our, chi and energy, through our cooperation with the universe, with the unseen world. And so now they learn that. And the third thing is, well, what if they miss the shot? Well, what's the most powerful and positive perspective that they could have in that situation? Right. So you're not always going to succeed, but it's how you respond to what happens, how you respond to what happens in your life that's going to dictate the quality of your life, not necessarily the results or what cards you're dealt. And then if you can do this from a state of being complete, whole, and harmonious and happy as you are. And so this worked with high level athletes as well. Like if I was coaching LeBron James and he was going to make a free throw for the game winning shot in game 7, well, if he's whole, complete, and harmonious, he's going to be much more likely to make the shot because he's going to have less stress hormones if his identity isn't on the line. Yes, he wants to perform. Yes, he's a world-class basketball player, but if he misses it, is he nothing? Right. And so the more you're certain in who you are beyond that identity or role that you play, whatever it is, you're going to increase your probability of success that way. And so, with the book, I kind of laid out all the different elements of, peak performance, right? So you got meditation, visualization, beliefs, self-hypnosis, diet, all these different factors. And in the middle is the Zen part, is like, bringing it all together to engaging it, to engage in the process. And so, for example, one story I have is, a freestyle motocross rider reached out to me. His name was Brody Carmichael, and
Mhm.
he fell on a front flip. And I was coaching his friend Pat Bowden, and he's amazing. He's in like FMX, and you look him up now. He's just doing all the coolest things in the world.
Oh
And
yeah.
he said, "Hey man, I heard you're good. I fell on a front flip, and I want to land a front flip in some variations." And I said, "Yeah, sure. Like let's have a chat." So we get on the phone, and his mental game is really strong. And I upgrade a few things here and there, and I say, "Hey, look, you can read my book. It's going to help, right, with some of these tools, but you don't have to. And you can go through the program I made. It'll help you, but you don't have to if you want to do this specific thing. All you have to do is visualize that trick an hour a day, every single day, until you know in your bones you're going to land it." Right. So immediately he takes a couple audios I sent him. He makes the guided visualization. This stuff is not complicated. Anybody can do it. If you can speak English, you can do all of this stuff. If you can think, and read and write, you can do this. You don't even really have to read and write well. You
Right.
just need basic processing skills. So he does this. 3 weeks later, he lands a front flip. 3 weeks after that, he lands the world's first front flip heel clicker. 3 weeks after that, he
Wow.
lands the world's first front flip Superman on a motorcycle, and was not even practicing it. He was going around different schools, doing motivational talks because he was using the power of visualization, which is extraordinary. Then you take that one step further, and you look at the work of like Dr. Joe Dispenza and these people that say, "Oh, I've
Mhm.
had these spontaneous healings," or things like that, using just meditation. And so you realize that we live in a very mysterious world, but we really influence our reality, when we really direct our mindset. So after working with athletes for a long time with the podcast, I've really transitioned in, I call it atomic alchemy, because most people don't know if they're going north, east, south, or west. They don't know how. If I ask you, what would you do if you're infinite? What would you do if you had unlimited money? People haven't asked these questions. They don't list out their values. So if you're going, if you are on the middle of an ocean, you don't know where you're going. How are you going to know where you're going to end up? Most people just go around like schools of fish. They
Yeah.
just do. They're. It's like designing your life deliberately, or you're designing it by default. So it's just coming at you and you're just taking what's easy and things like that.
Right.
So what I've really taught people now is getting very clear on that direction of where you're going, right? And then now adding all of this peak performance stuff, all the stuff that's perseverance, you know what I mean? All the dedication, which is in the book, visualization, goal setting, self-hypnosis, all the limiting beliefs around mindset, right? So as soon as you identify that goal, you can pick out all your limiting beliefs and show you how to ding those, right? So, oh, I'm not going to do it because there's too many of these. Well, is that true? Probably not. Is it possible that you do it? Yes. What's the belief you want? I want to believe that I can make this happen. Great. Is that true? Yes. Boom. Right. And then you start implanting that through affirmations, visualizations, and what you do throughout the day.
Mhm.
And so that's how it's transitioned over time. And the other example I kind of give to people is, um, when I do a lot of traveling, been to about 30 different countries,
Wow.
and I'd ask, people the same questions, right? And it surprised me that people didn't question anything. And
Right.
so what I also realized is that their conscious mind wasn't able to give them a good answer. And the reason why is that our conscious mind's number one job is to keep us safe and alive.
Mhm.
And so if I ask you, what would you do if money were no object, right? The mind goes, I know you're trying to trick me, dummy, but, you know, we need food, right? And in order to
Mhm.
get the food, we need money. So I'm not going to listen to your nonsense and kill myself. That's what the conscious mind is thinking. So it's
Mhm.
going to distort that answer.
Right.
And so your heart, on the other hand, that's what's connected to spirit and knows you're eternal, knows you're going to only die when you're meant to die. It knows that. And so I had
100%.
one friend that's so analytical, and I didn't even bother with the questions because I knew he's just so analytical. It's impossible for him.
Right.
So I go, hey man, I was like, let's just do a guided meditation. So off the top of my head, I've done hypnosis and meditations, and hypnosis is guided meditation. It's a little bit different.
Right.
You can read books on it. Again, not complicated stuff. There's a reason why they want you to think it's mysterious and things like that, because it's
Mhm.
incredibly powerful and incredibly effective. So I kind of hypnotize him in his heart, and I ask him the series of questions, and in the middle he starts crying. And he's this older gentleman, not a guy who's like, a very feeling based fellow.
Right. Right.
And at the end, I was like, huh, interesting. And he's like, man, thank you so much for that. And I was like, I don't know anything like that because I try everything. That's what
Mhm.
if you've got a thing that says, you tap crystals together and do sage and do whatever weirdness you can think of. I've
Right.
probably tried it to the fullest extent to know if it's legit. Right. And
Yep.
I'll just say, look, this was my experience. You know what I mean? That's all I can share, but I tried it super hard.
That's how
Right.
you
Like,
figure out what works, trying everything, all the possible methods.
100%, right? And not one thing works for everybody, but
Mhm.
you can see ones that have a little bit more weight and substance to them from the result you get and
Right.
what's the result you want. And so then I was like, oh, I should do this for people. So I started to experiment, and the first 10 people I did, I think 9 out of the 10 cried. One popped out of their body, and one actually pissed themselves from what they said was a healing.
Wow.
you know and
Wow.
again, I'm not doing anything special.
Right.
This is all I'm doing. Okay, I am taking them through a process where they get hypnotized into their heart. By hypnotize, I mean they're relaxed and then they focus through the lens of their heart. So like, if I relax your mind, I could say, like, I would do this with athletes, right? You say, oh, I can't be a successful entrepreneur. I'd be like, really? I was like, well, who's the most successful entrepreneur? They say, okay, Richard Branson. I was like, okay.
Right.
So just imagine you're Richard Branson right now, right? And now imagine it. Well, could he do it? Yeah, right. Through that perspective. So with the athletes, if they couldn't land a backflip, I'd say, who's your favorite athlete? They'd be like, this person. I'd be like, can they land a backflip? Like, yeah. I was like, okay, visualize doing a backflip as if you're that person. Bingo. They could do it right away. Such a simple thing to smash through limiting beliefs immediately. And that's why people get stuck for literally years on are the sometimes the smallest limiting beliefs. But on the
Mhm.
other side of those small limiting beliefs, there's perseverance and dedication. But this is the whole thing. If you have something lined up that is your heart-centered vision, who you truly are, who you came here to be, because everybody has a purpose. I don't care who you are or where you are. You might have not lived up to that purpose, right? And your purpose may not be billboards and fame and stuff like that. If you've
Mhm.
read The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, he was just a
Mhm.
guy who worked at the gas station peacefully. You could be a farmer, you could be a mother, you could be an entrepreneur, you could be anything. But that is up to you. And that impulse and that connection is between you and the creator. And you were created. You were sent here. You were not here by accident. And so many people have fallen victim to this hypnotic illusion of the television, and everything is hypnotic. That's why you have to understand this. All movies, all TV, all programming, it's programming the mind. This is not,
Yep.
this is very, very deliberate. And I know that because I use it for positive purposes. So
Yep.
when I'm looking at like the limits of human potential, I'm also finding out these assholes are using it to
For evil.
brainwash
Yeah.
people, you
Yep.
know? And so when we take back our power and we know the direction we're in, and you won't quit for anything, it's not about the end destination. It's about, I'm going, if there's 360 degrees on a dial, most people have no idea where they're going. Right.
Right.
So we're like, all right, looks like you're going north, right? You go through your values. What would you do? What are your curiosities? What kind of stuff would you help? What kind of people you want to be around? You start defining this stuff. Then all of a sudden you're going north, right? And then you get to northeast, and then you get to like 348.2 degrees, and any material thing does not matter. It matters in the sense that you prefer having the material thing that will help you get further, but you're excited about the way. It's not about, oh, I have this house and now I'm going to get further. No, it's how can I get this resource so that I can get to this next thing, right? And even if that is a farm and a family and a good community, it's going to be like, okay, in that community, you're going to be contributing something. And for me, it's the most important thing to change the world, because if everyone were living their vocation, their purpose, they wouldn't be selling out their souls for money. And
Yeah.
money is what's doing this, is the root of it. And money's not the root of all evil. It's like the love of money, when people
Yep.
compromise their soul to do
Greed.
something to make money that they know is unethical. Right. Or just, it's easy, man. Like, this is how I make a buck. Yeah. But who are you? Because if
Right.
you were who you were, and you were honoring yourself in that contract and that connection with spirit, that inner voice that you suppress every day, you'd be doing something that was good for your community. But you're not doing it because you're not guaranteed the amount of coupons, the money tickets, right? So you're compromising your own integrity. So you're only harming yourself.
Hmm. I completely agree, man. That was the whole reason I started this podcast, because for so long I was like, I need the equipment. I need someone to do it with me. It's like, no, you just need to do it. And then me doing it is showing other people they can do it as well. And like, that was my whole thing, was if I can do it, anyone can do it. And, I just want to, put out positive messages to the world, and, help somebody through a rough day if it can help them. That's
That's it, man. That's beautiful. I'm so glad that you did that, and you reached out and you're like, thanks. I was like, no problem, man. Like, thank you. It takes
thank you.
effort and time and dedication, and you can see that. Right?
Hmm.
That's literally why I did it 5 years ago. And so it's like, am I any more special because I have had 5 million downloads? Like, when I first started, I couldn't imagine that, but
Hmm.
it's just as challenging now.
Yeah.
People are not knocking down my door to give me money. I assure you, I am
Right.
still figuring out how to piece this together, because I always think in my journal, I say, basically, spirit, God, creator, show me the way to be of highest service, please guide me today, right? Let the spirit live through me, like through my words and actions and deeds. I am not perfect. I make mistakes. I am human. I'm not fully optimized. I'll go grab some beers with a buddy sometimes.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'm super focused and like will commit to something and really accelerate what I'm doing. But my service and what I contribute is the highest importance. So I'm always intending that, right? Every day, show me the way to be of highest service. And right
Hmm.
now, the best thing I know how is the podcast. Then all of a sudden, I kind of felt off track, and this is pretty rare for me. And just with the turmoil of the world, and I was like looking, I was like,
Right.
how do I help? And I have a daughter now. How can I create this as a business? Because it's not a business,
Hmm.
And then so I switched the way that I did coaching. So I'm helping way more people. It's less expensive, but I'm helping them get the results they want. But I'm finally being supported a little bit, right? To
Right.
where it like stabilized, right? Because if you have a daughter, it changes the whole thing. It
Oh yeah.
has to be business, but I had to do it in a way that had integrity. It took me a year to figure that out, right? And then so this last year is kind of the same thing, where I usually get enough with the business to focus fully on the podcast. Then all of a sudden, I spent the last 2 months doing a law summit and trying to help people understand all these regulations and how to prevent their kids from getting vaccinated and how to
Hmm.
reserve their rights. And so, I felt lost, and I realized, I was like, dude, you just spent 2 months doing a law summit. And again, of highest service, we didn't charge for it. Might at the end, we might say, hey, if you want to, sell it as a package for like $100 or something, but
Right.
it's like nothing, for
Right.
like two
Yeah.
months of work getting world-class experts. And so
Oh yeah.
that was the next thing, right? So if I'm aiming constantly to have the spirit live through me to do my best. And again, not perfect, and you could pick me apart all day, right? But to do my best and do my part, right? That was 2 months of effort there. And I was like, okay, I saw that. Thank you. And sometimes when you're in it, you don't know. And so, that's the next island or the next thing to do, right? And
Hmm.
sometimes there's a little bit of in between, but you keep intending. And sometimes it's the daily interactions, taking care of a loved one, a brother, a sister, a friend, reaching out, making sure they're okay. All of that stuff is equally valid. You don't need to be some sort of spiritual self-help author that sells millions of books, right? Doing
Right.
exactly what you're doing is that, and you do it, it's not for what you can get. It's what I
Hmm.
can give, and that's what I feel like an awakened person is. They take 100% responsibility for everything in their life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Their
Hmm.
limitations, all the good stuff, right? And they think about not what I can get, but what can I give? And when you
Right.
flip that, it is a total different trajectory. And when you die, and I promise you, you will,
Right.
maybe not, I don't know.
We're all facing that
It's just,
fate.
yeah, right. We're all gonna die, right? You're gonna be proud of yourself. You're not gonna go, oh man, I wish.
Yep.
And so many people do that. I wish, you know what I mean? You took the comfortable road. You took what was quote unquote guaranteed, but
Yep.
you didn't test yourself. We think of these small, tiny things, not like, what am I capable of? And I'll give you
Right.
one last example. I when I'm coaching and talking to people, I like to give them this analogy. I'm like, okay, just imagine, you know, tomorrow, for the next 5 years, right? You're going to have everything you ever wanted in your life, right? So I come back and like, holy, you were successful, right? From now on in 5 years, you had everything you ever wanted, hundreds of millions of dollars, cars, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? All this stuff, right?
Hmm.
And then I say, okay, well, at that moment, I come to you and I say, hey, I'm going to, now we're going to go backtrack those 5 years, and you're going to be blind the whole time. Now, do you want to choose blindness or all these material objects? And immediately, if it's blindness or if it's used to their legs, right? What if I just take one foot? Do you still want all this? Like, no, I want my foot, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so we forget about how important our senses are to experience this reality, right? And because you would trade that, because I know, because everyone will say the same thing, like, I want my sense back,
Right.
right? And then experience light. I'd rather have way less than take. I was like, yeah, but you have that sense every day and you never appreciate it, myself included.
Right.
So I've got to remind myself of that. So that's kind of the end of my rant there, but I want to get
Oh,
that one in
yeah.
there because I thought it's a good analogy.
Right. Yeah. Just appreciating the little things, And I got to say, man, like one thing I really respect about you, because like you said, in like the new age community, it's all this love and light only stuff. And it's like, let's just forget there's any darkness in the world and bury our heads in the sand. And let's just meditate the world to peace. And I get that. Like I think meditation is a very important practice daily, on an individual level and collectively, as well. But I think you shine a lot of light in the darkness, which is very important to make us aware of it. But you also provide solutions, which I really appreciate about. I really appreciate that about you, man. Like honestly, like all the stuff that you cover is so relevant in this world, and so many are afraid to talk about it. And I feel like the only thing to fear is fear itself, and you embody that totally. Like
No,
so, yeah,
yeah, I appreciate that. And that's one of the things, like, what is that saying? Like, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled is to convince the world he doesn't exist.
right.
And there's a book, Skeptico, Alex Sakaris, he was on my
Hmm.
podcast and he wrote a book called Why Evil Matters, How Science and Religion Flubbed a Big One. And he basically talks about how all of this evil can prevail because everybody puts blinders on it.
Yep.
Everybody puts blinders on it. And there is I didn't when I'm super into all the spiritual stuff,
Hmm.
and I get that, right? Because I'm testing the grounds. But
Hmm.
again, with the Shaolin monks, it's physical reality and the ether, and you're here, right? You got to. How does a
Right.
garden grow? Go talk to a farmer, and all the stuff you're eating, and tell them if that stuff works. It doesn't,
Right.
right? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, and it does not work with a pro athlete. I remember one of my students saying, yeah, I'm only going to do what's an F yes. And I thought about it and I was like, oh, this is a new one for me. And I was like, bullshit. And I was like, you can do it with a much better perspective and
Right.
be like an F yes direct. But if you want to be a world-class athlete, that doesn't cut it. Right.
Hmm.
If I want to help people, right. When I was doing the law summit, a lot of it was pain in the butt.
Right.
It was not an F yes. It was a lot. It was like, oh man, this is annoying. Now could I have a better perspective? Yeah. So but especially now, and what they did with what they call it, the esoteric agenda, is it's
Hmm.
Mark Passio talks about it. And I think one of your past guests was learning
Right.
from him, and he talks about solipsism and how, people are saying, oh, there's no right and wrong. No, there is a truth and there is a right and wrong, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a truth. Like if you stand in front of a train going 100 miles an hour, you are going to get severely hurt,
Oh yeah.
most likely dead.
Yep.
No kind of wish, like that is something that will happen in this reality. And so what's happened is a conditioning not to look at this darkness, to kind of close our eyes to it because it's too frightening.
Yep.
But all that's required is us to look at it so we can say no. And it's all of this stuff. And I hear of all of this spiritual bypass and all these different
Yeah.
reasons. I was like, look, and it's funny because I see it all the time, people, and it's only people in the position where they're not getting harmed. Then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, when all of this stuff and they start getting harmed, and whatever that case is, it
Yep.
goes out the window. I was like, so well, how is that helping the people that are getting harmed over there? So it's a delicate it's a balance, right? That's why I
Mm-hmm.
like the yin yang symbol that's behind him. It's a balance. It's not, I can't let that, I can't wear all that, I wore it all for a long time. The starvation and the famine and the human
Right.
trafficking and the nonsense. And now the new stuff, like I wear it, and I want to do my part. And that's all I can do is do the best I can where I am with what I'm around, but I can
Yep.
be aware of it. So that way, like I'm walking down the street, right? And somebody gave me this example, and I thought it was very fascinating. But they go, and I like Buddhism, so it was the first kind of knock. And I really like the Eightfold Path. I think is
Oh yeah.
money, and the four noble truths, I think, is money. But someone
Mm-hmm.
was saying, and I don't know if this is true, but they just gave the analogy that goes, if there was a woman being raped on the street, right, the Buddha would walk by and just let it be. Apparently, that's the teachings, right? Like these subtle teachings of let the universe be. But Jesus would have, took that guy out. And I was like, oh. And I was like, is that one of those? Because in hypnosis, it's all very subtle,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as a martial artist, I think, when do I act? Well, if someone's being harmed, I am acting, right? And so that's kind of what's happening on this mass scale. Nobody wants to rock the boat. That's why I've been very disappointed in these quote unquote influencers and these spiritual teachers.
Right.
Either one, you don't know what's going on, so you're not that bright.
Mm-hmm.
Two, you know what's going on and you're not saying anything. And you're probably not saying anything because you want your money, which is
Yep.
fair. If you're getting a lot of money, you probably want it. I get that,
Right.
right? But there goes your integrity
Yep.
because you didn't want to say anything,
You
right? So
can't have one
you have to
without the
take that.
other.
Yeah, you have to take that accountability. And so someone was asking me, like, what have you gained from talking about all this? I was like, nothing. I've lost a lot.
Right. Right.
They deleted everything I have.
Exactly.
Right, but it was the right thing to do.
Exactly.
And that's all I can do. I have to look myself in the mirror. When you die, that's the mirror. You
Yep.
can't escape it. Everything that you've done, it's going to go up, the good, the bad, the ugly, and that's going to be this higher self. And I've been to these weird realms where you want to be as clean as possible on the other
Oh yeah.
side. You're not going to be perfect, I promise you, but like when you feel that uh,
You can't hide from the skeletons in the closet in that realm.
no, but yeah, but like the disappointment you'll feel in yourself is
Oh
like
yeah.
it's this emptiness and sickness and disappointment that you do not want to feel. You know what I
No.
mean? This world is temporary.
Yep.
Is a very temporary place. Live boldly, be courageous. You are made from the creator. The whole agenda has been to take away people's souls, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're harvesting your souls. Why do you have to work a 9 to 5 to pay money, debt, a fictional debt? It's
Right.
harvesting your life force to do nothing, to
100%.
be a robot, So
Yep.
you have to take that back, and you can take that back through being embodiment to the creator, whatever that is for you, the Tao, Chi, Buddha. It's not like a person sitting there judging you, although it could as very well be. It could just
Right.
be as simple as that inner voice,
Inner
great
critic. Yeah.
spirit, right? My native teacher called him the creator,
Mhm.
creator that created everything. Please guide me, show me the right thing, right? That intent, that's what you can know for sure. Everything else is weird, right? One day the earth is round, then it's flat, then it's round again, then it's a cube. Then
Right.
I'm in a simulation. Then history's 20,000 year old. Then coronavirus is good. Then it's bad. I don't know. I'm only
Right.
taking the bits of information I can. But the thing I can guarantee I know is my intent.
Mm-hmm.
And the creator also knows that intent. And then do I go do anything, or does it need to be certain? Yeah, I would go to help, but you know what I mean? It doesn't come with a $200,000 a year thing and a BMW and certainty. Well, then you're not a spiritual person.
Right.
Just is what it is. It's fine, right? You're not living in alignment with your highest potential. It's a much more beautiful and bold journey to just embark on who you are. What could be more magical than that? And it's going to be hard,
Oh yeah.
right? But rewarding. So
I
don't
love
know.
that quote. It's like, you know, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. It's like we think
Yep.
like once we're enlightened, like we're done and we just like we're there forever. It's like, no, you still got it. And it's like be in this world, but not of it, as the Bible says, it's like you still gotta integrate in this world and like play the game. And that's what my podcast is all about. It's like we're on this chessboard, we're playing this game of chess, and we're like seeing each other as opposites or like a competitive opposite, opposite team we're faced against. And it's about embracing that other team as a reflection of ourselves, and what we do to them, we're doing to ourselves, good or bad, and rising above, the differences and duality and finding common ground in that. And, just rising to our true potential, which I feel like, you embody. And that's, I think, what you're doing with your show, at least from what I've got from listening. So I commend you for that, man.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. And you're right about the duality. And that's you know, the challenge on people, how they perceive it, right? With the good and the evil, right? Because this is what's happening now. It's good versus evil. This
Right.
is an incredibly spiritual war. What's going on?
100%.
Truth versus, the satanic reality is inverted, right? Think about it.
Yep.
God breathed the breath of life into man. They mask us,
Yeah.
right? For health. How does that make any sense?
Right.
What else is there? Just so, oh yeah, 6 feet away, keep your children away from the grandparents so they don't harm them.
Right.
How evil is that thought to to even put that thought in a kid's head that you could be the reason that your grandparents died?
I thought of it.
How satanic is that?
Right. I thought of it like The Walking Dead, because it's like you're buried 6 feet underground, but they want to keep us 6 feet apart. It's like, so what are we, walking zombies? Like,
there you go. Yeah, and
we're afraid to hug our loved ones.
Yeah, and it's all ritualistic. And so here's then the kind of that spiritual thing, because you brought up a good point. I kind of want to address it.
Mhm.
I address it as, yes, you are causing harm. Sometimes it's ignorant and sometimes it's intentional, and that's even worse.
Mhm.
That then I have to give compassion, especially to the ignorant. That's sometimes hard, right? Rather than being angry. No, they believe that they're ignorant. They're brainwashed. They're under a spell. Right. And then the intentional, they're directly evil. And that is even harder to be compassionate about. Right. And all I can do is build a solution. Right. So if I'm allowing hate to take over, I'm not living in love, but I'm still being a part of the solution. And so I think that one of these tricks is, my neighbor's house down the street, yeah, they've been, struggling for years. They need help, but we'll just send them a couple good vibes. Get your ass over there, knock on their door, get their names, ask them how you can help, and go help them. And, one of my Native American teachers, David Lombert, he'd often say at talks, many people are so heavenly minded, they're no earthly good, and he goes, your electrical engineers are more spiritual than most of your spiritual teachers. I said, really? Why? He goes, because they're actually doing something. Right. But I think about it now, right? Because I have this conversation with my buddy. He does HVAC and he's really handy, whenever we have a problem, he comes fix our crap. Right. And then he'll say, so, oh man, I feel like I'm not doing anything. I'm working for a school board. I was like, yeah, but you have these skills and you show up and you're handy, right? Like you matter too. And if you want to change your vocation, you can, if you want, but you're also providing for your family. Maybe you're a good influence there. You do your best there. Right. But you can actually help. Right. Right. On a moving day, what's that? I love that. Moving day goes something like this. It's a meme. Like moving day is like, fake friends, nobody shows up, your actual friends, they show up, and then your best friend, I think he has some beer or something.
Right.
He's
just
all
watching,
stoked.
drinking beer.
Yeah, he's all stoked. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, we're doing this. Right. And if the spiritual community could just do that, right? It's the showing up part, not just sending some Reiki vibes, right? Which I'm all for, right? But I don't need Reiki vibes if I need my couch moved, right?
I need some help lifting it. Yeah,
exactly. And so that's that bridge we just want to be aware of. Just like at the Shaolin Academy, it's both worlds, and that's what Zen Athlete is. Both worlds. You want to architect your life and build your dream. It's going to take all the grit and who you are that you're going to pour yourself into that cup. and you're going to use this spiritual and understand your mindset and understand how to work with these forces, understand how to do meditation and visualization to accelerate the process. But to be in peace as you go through the process is even more powerful, right? With the, figuring things out. How the heck do I do this? How do I build a website? I don't have enough money. I'm just going to quit because I can't build a website. No, build a crap one first, then
Yep.
learn and learn and learn. Then all of a sudden you did it all by hand. 10 years later, you can now help all of these other people do it. Right. And that's why we got to go through our own learning process.
Yeah, I always tell people, just start where you're at. That's all you can do. Like, don't get overwhelmed and like thinking all the stuff you need or have just to get started. Like, no, you can start right now and then, build from where you're at and the more experience, because you're building experience just starting, you know, make a plan, but, start working on the plan. That's action right there, just making a plan and setting goals and moving towards your dreams.
Yeah, and that, and that brings up another point. Like, it's never finished. Like I love
Hmm.
martial arts. So you look at Conor McGregor, right? He's a young guy. He wants to be a UFC champion. Okay, then all of a
Right.
sudden he gets in his brain, I'm going to be a two-weight champion. This is what he's thinking. Boom. He's just training years and years and years and years and years and years. Friggin' does it.
Right.
Then what? Right? His life continues.
Yep.
Well, now he's a father. Now it evolves, but he's going to use those same tools for the next thing. That's why
100%.
high level athletes are able to achieve so much more because they know what it takes. You have to be able to put yourself in the gym, to persevere, to push yourself, to understand goals, to keep yourself accountable, right? To have community. Community is super helpful. So all these tools, if you know how to use them, you can really accelerate your process. And so now with my coaching, I've kind of try to take all those tools to help people the most I can, right? So podcasts, you got 500 episodes, the Soul Compass course and quantum heart hypnosis. Those are two of the best, simple things for you to know who you are, to know your life purpose, and to get on track. That's not hard. We can do
Yeah.
that quick. Quantum heart hypnosis, you go through that, you get those. If you, can't afford it, you get them for free. They're both $100. It's nothing, right? But you get them
Right.
for free. Just email me. I don't give a shit. But the challenge will be
Beautiful.
the next day and the day after that and the day after
Hmm.
that. Matt, like, what did you do when you deleted my Facebook? I kept going.
Yeah.
What did you do when you deleted my YouTube? I kept going. What do you do when they dinged your RSS feed and I was going from 150,000 downloads all the way down to like 28,000 in a month? That's because
Same.
they've hit me year after year. Boom, 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 boom.
Right.
And I would think, and I would go through a season and just reflect, is this the path? Is this the highest good? Show me the way, to live rightly under God and the creator. Show me a
Right.
way to make a positive impact. The best thing I know how with my monkey brain is this podcast. Is there something else? Right. So right now, the job is the podcast until it's something else and then something else.
Right. Beautiful, man. Um, yeah. Sorry, I totally lost my train of thought there. You were jumping all over the place, but that was beautiful.
I appreciate it.
uh,
Well, yeah, man, that could be random. My brain goes all
oh,
over the place.
totally.
But yeah, I think the bottom line for people is just to do their best. Be kind and compassionate to yourself. Do your best, but don't underestimate yourself. It's a little bit over time. Like
Hmm.
like Stephen Kotler likes to say, the 4%, right? Whatever your life purpose is, just carve out 30 minutes a day or 4 hours on a weekend, right? Or one night a week. You talk to your partners like 4 hours. You do that for a year, you're on a total different trajectory, right?
Hmm.
It's because we give it the goose egg.
Right.
That's all it is. And that's why it's illness that transforms people, or some sort of tragedy. They have this shift, right? Because they're like, what was I doing? Right. So you don't need that external catalyst to do something now, right? To have those same epiphanies. You just need to, have that, honest asking, that pure intent.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you were talking about like the 9 to 5 and kind of how it, robs us of our life force. And I feel like there's this phenomena of like people retiring and they don't know what to do with themselves because like they've made their whole identity this job that they slaved away for years, and now they have this money to retire on that they worked their whole life for. They're like, well, what do I do now? And it's like, it's that's a part of it too. It's like it like steals the identity from people if they're not doing something that's fulfilling them.
100%. And it's also, to be clear, like, in no way does this take away the generation of hard workers to do everything they could to give us the options we have now. right?
100%.
Like my dad did the best he could to stand on his shoulders, to have the possibilities that I have. And
Right.
I'm doing the best I can with those possibilities, with the deepest respect for his generation, for the options that he had to give me a better life. I couldn't be here without him. You know,
Right.
all these people now, right? They couldn't be there without their parents that maybe, had to work their ass off and that's the option they had. And
Hmm.
maybe that it was the most spiritual thing they could have ever done, is to
Right.
work their butt off to give a better life for their kids. That's incredibly spiritual, right? So we want to be
Right.
clear on that too, right? It's all these distinctions, to
Hmm.
just know, okay, there's no problem with working hard. I'm going to work my ass off at this regular job, but I got that vision of who I am.
Hmm.
Still, it's always there. It's never gone. You could work at McDonald's with the vision in your heart for where you're going. That's the whole thing. You
Hmm.
don't lose that, right?
Right.
You can be right. The way of the peaceful warrior is a gas station attendant, and he's just like, this spiritual guy. What are you doing as a gas station attendant? He's like, what's wrong with that? People need gas.
Right.
It's just so
Playing
simple.
his role.
But
Yeah.
you're coming through, you're talking to the guy, right? He's he's your local barber shop. He's
Oh
whatever, you know
yeah.
what I mean? He's a part of his community. There's nothing wrong with that. So it's this balance, it's honoring yourself, and
Yep.
what that signal is. That's the key, is knowing that pulse and signal, and the creator and spirit will help you when you listen to it, right? And because you'll feel fulfilled. If you feel fulfilled, if you know you're on track, that. If you feel like, I wish I could, but, well, why not? Why not a
Right.
little bit? What do you need to do? What do you need to change? What really speaks to you? And honoring that. And because the universe will conspire for your benefit, but you have to do something.
Right. Yeah. I know you've been getting a lot into natural law, and that stuff has been fascinating to me. That's something I've really picked up on in the last year, and I'm starting to study more and more. Your show and Crow 777 has been a huge influence in that. Just the wide range of guests you guys have had on, and just the amount of information there is to, weed through. And yeah, I don't think it could be any more relevant to the time we're living in, to embody, our sovereignty, and, embrace our creator and know who we are. And yeah, man, it's powerful stuff. And I totally respect what you're doing in that aspect as well. And I can't thank you enough for getting the word out there on that, because I think that was a pivotal role in the lockdowns ending, and a lot of the US, I would argue. And I don't know what the state of Canada is at right now. That's what you're going through. So if you want to shed some light on that, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I feel like the law game is incredibly important. I remember coming across this stuff when I was younger, and I didn't know enough. And I think that everyone should be chipping away at it, because we have to know how to stand on our rights. Our rights are given to us by our creator, right? It's not a constitution that gives them to you. You get them inherent from a creator. Just because they put them on a piece of
100%.
paper, it doesn't mean you have them or don't have them. You know what I mean? You have to know how to invoke that. And there's spiritual jurisdictions and all kinds of weirdness. And
Hmm.
did you want to say something?
No, no, go ahead.
Oh, I thought you said something. Okay, so you know, understanding the law is so prevalent. And I had one of my friends, she likes the spiritual stuff and goes to Dr. Joe Dispenza all the time, which I love his work. It's a part of it.
Hmm.
But I said, you need to stop that now, because you already know it. You've been a bunch. What
Hmm.
you should be studying is the law, because it's actually very spiritual. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
acts. It is like acts and statutes are in there, but it's such a spiritual endeavor. I had no idea.
Right.
Some of the most spiritual shows I've had are on law, and it's really about good versus evil and justice, understanding what justice is and what truth is.
Yep.
But this is the system they've used to enslave us. So we need to get out of slavery in our minds, and then know how to keep the parasites at bay. And now she's got this infraction or whatever, and she's like kind of going around. It's like, I told you 5 months ago. I was like, is your law of attraction stuff going to help now? And like, I love it, and it might, right?
Hmm.
I might be able to meditate it away, but why am I going to spend an hour every day meditating a ticket away? It seems stupid,
Right.
right?
Right. You got to
It
take some
just
action sooner or
yeah, it
later.
just kind of seems absurd, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So but it's so important, because we kind of fell asleep at the wheel. We forgot how to hold them accountable, right? And
Hmm.
so we got these great teachers like Alphonse. Check out the Choose Freedom Law Summit. We'll still have those videos up. Crow
Awesome.
777 is doing some great ones. I'm doing mine. The great ones are on Odyssey, but you kind of chip away and you uncover the system, and then you empower yourself. It's so important to know, because there's probably going to come a time where they're going to try to infringe on your freedom, and then you could really empower yourself and your family and your community. This is stuff that needs to be taught to kids, and so since we forgot it, we need to be the first generation to be accountable to relearn it, to throw everybody who's using it unlawfully, illegally, um, and it's literally Luciferian, because what they're doing is they're deceiving you to harm you, to take everything from you, to harvest from you. That is actually what's going on, and that
100%.
is a terrible person who does that. Good people can't fathom other people would set up systems to do that. It's the same
No.
thing. That's why people starve to death in Africa. Well, if you want their resources, you can't have a thriving economy getting in the way of that. So how
Right.
about we just keep them in perpetual poverty, keep 9.1 million people die of starvation. Everyone is all up in arms in the corona. And every time I just say it, yeah, 9.1 million people die of starvation. That's been happening for years.
Every year.
No hoopla for that. We got it. We got the best vaccine in the world for that. Just rice and
Right.
water, just,
Right. Exactly.
think,
It's an
use your
easy
brain.
fix.
Right. And so, I want to be aware of those things, aware of some of the atrocities. And then, when there's an opportunity to do good, do that, be helpful, be aware. Don't just ignore it. Say, no, hey guys, like this is an issue. Is there something we could do? Right. Let's not just look away. Right. If somebody's taking a girl at a park and I have a daughter, like they're gonna get smoked. You know what I mean? Like in real life, I will run. And doing law and security too. They tell the example that like, if you're just alone and somebody causes harm, it's more likely the person's going to come unless there's a crowd of people, because they expect someone else to do it. So the
Right.
crowd of people will literally just witness a horrendous crime
And not do
rather than
anything.
helping. And that's
Right.
the psychology, and that's the psychology we're in now. And so, Alphonse Fagiolo's got a really great channel, and he was talking today. He was on the summit. He did 2 interviews for the summit, and he's just talking about how one of the guys in Florida just sued every. He had like 40 winning cases for the mask, because they look at the
Right.
statutes and it's illegal, so they were discriminating. So there's 40 people that got sued. They lift the mask mandates. So you got to figure out who is doing these things, hold them accountable. But it takes a little bit of effort, takes a
Right.
little bit of accountability. And again, it's this catalyst where we're all having this opportunity to learn, right? So we can get to that next level, because on the other side of it is peace and justice and truth. And the good people just kind of fell asleep at the wheel in front of their NFL football games
Yep.
and their Cheetos and their, fluoridated water
All the
and
distractions. Yep.
all that comfort and distraction. And that's it. So we just need to reclaim that power. And it's an amazing opportunity for all of humanity.
100%, brother. Well, that was an empowering message. I don't know if you got time for one more question or
Yeah,
you
sure.
gotta,
Shoot.
okay. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on your plant medicine journeys. If you had one that really impacted your life, or how much that impacted your spiritual journey, along with, studying with the monks and, all the other travels you've had that have impacted that journey.
Yeah. So, that's a big question, and I appreciate it. I think that plant medicine can be a very powerful tool. And I think at the same time, so many people are misusing it with the wrong
Sure.
intent. And so, you got people who are not really ready using things that are incredibly powerful, like ayahuasca, like psilocybin, and things like that. And so, my suggestion for people is to, first seek the creator. What kind of shift are you looking for? Because if you're not seeking this type of tool or medicine in earnest, it might end up causing you harm, right? And
100%.
but if you are gonna use them responsibly with the pure intent to act on what you're shown. Right. So I've done ayahuasca a few times, and the last time I went, it was like, you don't need to come back. You
Hmm.
know what you're supposed to do. Go do it.
Got
And
the
it's just like,
message. Hang up
you
the
got the
phone.
message. Yeah. Go to work. You know what I mean? And so I've been going to work, and
Beautiful.
it's a beautiful experience, and it can be a horrendous experience, depending.
Hmm.
But, luckily for me, I didn't have that. But, it may very well be. But so you want to just, really be honest and authentic with why you are going to do it, and then do it to the best of your ability, and treat it with respect, and then act on what you're shown, right? Because I feel like what's happening is, with this popularization of it, a lot of people are getting harmed actually doing this. A lot of people are, it's like, surfing. You don't start with the big waves,
Right.
right? You can if you've got that intent and you're on the track and you're doing it, and it can be incredibly helpful and incredibly powerful. But if you're like, oh man, I want to go, you know, I want to go to the casino, you know,
Right.
that might not be the right intent for you. You know what I mean? And you might get smacked for that. And so yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts. That, as I've gotten older, it's kind of changed a little bit, but yeah, for me, that's always been the journey. If I was going to use them, what was my intent, and what am I trying to connect to, and when I get a lesson, how can I embody that? And so that would be my suggestion for people, because they're incredibly intense and they're powerful and they're personal, and hopefully it sparks that connection. If you feel like you've lost that connection with spirit, but my suggestion is that, for my native teachers, like, find it in nature first, find it
Definitely.
in yourself first. It can be a nitrous boost of a Kickstarter, but it's all around you at every moment, right? And so it just kind of reminds, right? And
Oh
so
yeah.
that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
That's beautiful, brother. I couldn't agree more on the set and setting. And honestly, when I did ayahuasca, there was a breathwork session there in between the journeys, and I had a more powerful journey visually through the breathwork, just breathing, than doing ayahuasca. And it's like that showed me right there, like, you are the medicine, and we forget and we think we need something externally, but we're already whole and complete, just being our true selves. And yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. This has been a beautiful talk, brother. Thanks
Yeah,
for coming on.
yeah, I really appreciate the invite. And the only last thing I'd love to share with people is, of all the spiritual books that I've read in the podcasts and travels, the best teaching I've ever had was from David Lombard. And he said, do 3 kind acts a day, go out of your way to do it, and don't tell anyone. And, for me, it was just the most transformative lesson for being an actual spiritual person. Because
Beautiful.
in my mind, I was thinking I was doing these things, but actually 3 times a day. So he said, get someone's name, right? He's like, that's an act of kindness. And we don't do that. Now with the masks, it's like even more relevant.
Hmm.
Hi, like, I see you, going through the grocery store. Well, what's your name? It's, they're like, I was Bob. It's like, thank you, Bob. Like, you're welcome. Right. We're becoming so robotic, right? 6 feet
Oh
away.
yeah.
It's accelerated so much since he taught me that. And it's like, how important is it to, do an act of kindness? So, I like to, on my podcast, suggest people do it for a week, right? And ideally longer, but I say it's the kindness challenge, 3 kind acts a day, go out of your way to do it. Don't tell anyone. Don't go say, oh, I did this kind thing today. Then you're just bragging. It kind of
Right.
defeats the purpose, right? So you do it
Exactly.
to help. So
Yep.
you talked about electromagnetism and spiritual charges, and I like to suggest that there could be a possibility that you'll get a universal wink. So something really weird will happen to you, like my Thoth story, if you've listened to that one. And
Hmm.
I think that was on Tinfoil Hat, right? Because I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
trying to, I hadn't said it in so long. I kind of
Right.
was like, wait, what happened then? Because it
You're
was so
good.
messed up. You know what I mean? I'm just like, wait, I'm trying to be accurate here, but then it was like, it was not. It's not a story for regular reality.
Right.
So. um yeah, you get a universal wink, something really strange, and it'll be like just for you. And like, that's the path. The spiritual path is kindness, it's compassion in action, right?
Hmm.
With listening to that inner voice, and simplicity,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And so if it expands to something great, absolutely. But guess what? That expansion probably come from 10, 20 years of walking the path. And
Oh yeah.
then you'll look back and go, holy smokes, wow, what a ripple, what a tidal wave, right? And then you'll have all the things,
Oh yeah.
wow, I'm somehow in a comfortable house and everything got taken care of. And wow, that was a beautiful journey, and people look at you like, how did he do that? Did he read these books? Did he follow this protocol? He
Doing the
followed his
work's
heart.
powerful.
Yeah, he followed his heart and was authentic, and created a relationship with spirit, and did his best to, act in honor and integrity, and do the kind acts, show up for work.
Most
And if
definitely, brother.
in a fun and in a fun way, if you can. I make it serious 2 times, but if you can do it in a fun and exciting and fulfilled way, I think that's optimal.
Beautiful. Beautiful. This has been a great talk, man. And I always say at the end, if there's anything you want to plug, just please tell the listeners where they can find you.
Sure, appreciate it. Well, go to mattbelair.com, join the email list, because I'm getting censored like crazy. Telegram /Matt Belair is where you're going to get most of my content. If you want to go through the Heart Journey or the Soul Compass course, that's all life purpose stuff. It's really, really good. Very, very simple, very, very effective. you can get those programs, but if you can't afford the $100, send me an email, Matt@ZenAthlete. It'll be my gift to you. I just want you to have it. I just want you to do it. I just want you to get connected. So if I can support you in any way, just let me know. It's, there's resources for you.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoy this one and have a great week.